important to both of us, I think, to celebrate International Women's Day, because I guess as a female leading a predominantly female law firm, being in a very strong industry that was predominantly known for a strong male presence, which is quickly changing in the last, I would say, 5 years in particular, where a lot of women law students are outnumbering the males. I think it's important that we celebrate it because being in a blessed country like Australia, where we get a lot of opportunities, we do forget that there's still a whole world out there where there's a lot of challenges for the opposite, or for our sex, or the opposite sex. And they are obviously having those challenges that we need to be leaders and advocates for it. But obviously there's some issues still in Australia that haven't been addressed or are being addressed, but this gives us a real good opportunity to put a focus on it.
I wouldn't be the lawyer or the woman or the person that I am today without the experiences that I went through. I was predominantly in a top tier firm, very male dominant, and a large amount of glass ceiling effect there. I saw probably what I didn't want to be, and that's probably led me to where I am now.
I remember as a young lawyer that there was a celebration of another predominant large law firm in Sydney, where it was the first time a female partner was able to come back from maternity leave, and they encouraged her to come back and created a creche inside the office. And it's just funny to actually say that out loud. And I mean, that my career doesn't span that long, but it was only just 20 years ago.
I know.
It's all wisdom, but it was a celebration, and I just didn't understand that, and I thought, oh, well, that's just limiting. That you have to make a choice if you want to be a leader in the legal profession. You're going to have to give up some real rights and choices that are not just a female, but as a part of a couple, like my husband and I would have to think about, was that something that we would have to consider. So I mean, that's one of very many. There's obviously the way you were treated around the boardroom table at times. I mean, I could rattle off a whole list, but I think that was one of the triggers for me, is that in that time that women had to make a choice rather than could look at their options and how they would make that work. So I've come a long way. I find this is probably not a female focus to offer what we're going to offer young lawyers of today. It's more about the opportunity, like take the opportunity. I sense the biggest challenge is that we are trying to do too much and want everything instantly. Look to the people who've done that before, and don't be afraid to ask for help, but don't be afraid to obviously value what you bring to the table. Be confident, and speak up. If you think that something's wrong, you should be speaking up. And I think that's where I probably brought a lot of difference to the table, is I wasn't afraid to speak my mind and do it with respect. And I feel like you get heard, or you find the right audience, find the right mentors and the right team behind you, and that's not necessarily always female.
I'd like to think now that I also teaching at the university that I'm part of a lot of mentoring, and I really enjoy that because I can see not only female, but male as well.
Yeah.
And really, being the champion of yourself. No one else can sell yourself better than yourself. And a lot of people tend to think, oh, I can't do it, or I'm not sure. But it's really about finding your inner confidence and who you want to be and who you are. And like Adriana said, speaking up. As a younger lawyer, I felt maybe a little bit intimidated to speak up, and maybe I was not being heard. So the biggest thing for me around International Women's Day, particularly this year, is feel like you can speak up, feel like you should be heard, and as long as you do it respectfully and in a manner that is appropriate, I think that's the way to pay that for my girls and your girls, and other females, but also males as well.
So, I mean, I guess when I started Coutts, and then people started to ask me to come to celebrate or advocate for International Women's Day, male colleagues would make a mockery of the luncheons or the celebrations, or even just advertorials about Women's International Day. I think it's a lack of education and understanding, as in that they think celebrating women means downtrodden men, and it's actually the opposite of that. So it's all about just remembering how to elevate women who struggle to elevate themselves, and it's all about celebrating how far we've come. A lot of people don't reflect. I think there's a lot of reflection there. It's also not being afraid to advocate for where the shortcomings are, and there's still shortcomings in every aspect. So I don't think the perception is that it's all about let's elevate women at the cost of men, but it's not. It's all about elevating women to celebrate their achievements. I guess if I had the perfect, had the perfect world, equality means we would stop talking about equality. It's when you talk about discrimination, that means there's still discrimination. That's why we're talking about. Same with equality. If we had equality, we would stop talking about it. So that's what equality means to me, is when we don't have to talk about that. But equality in the logistical sense means, that, and I say this about when people challenge me and say, oh, it's all about, building up women at the detriment of men, or certain classes of people, even if it's not, on a basis of sex. But to me, I just sit there and I ask them if they have a mother, or if they have a daughter, or a wife, or whoever the prominent female is in their world, and say, are you happy for that person as an example? Are you happy for that person not to have a voice? Are you happy for that person not to have a choice? Not to have a choice of partner, not have a choice of sexuality, not to have any sort of choice? Or are you happy for that, including your mum, to work as hard side by side as your dad or another male and get paid 30% less? These are all little examples, but they're really important. So equality logistically means addressing those issues, but what equality in the future means to me is we stop talking about it, because it's there.
There's a lot of discussion around equality, which is not a bad thing, but I think you've got to take the steps to move to a point where we no longer have to put in a hard fight to get where we're going, and I think that we are definitely on the right track.
Absolutely.
The silence grew so big it pushed a hole straight through